Now, boom, Deion, here we go. Let's get it going. Colorado, TCU. TCU is ranked number 17th. Of course, a team that played in a national total game. They're laying 20.5. I went back and I looked at just, the turnover, if you will. And I did a double take. You got 70 new names, 51 transfers, 71 from power conferences, 10 from Jackson State. So this is probably, you can make the case really with how the transfer portal has came to be over the last several years. The biggest, I guess you can say, turnaround when it comes to bodies in college football history. This is still a team that was 1-11 last year in Colorado. Look, man, TCU obviously, different quarterback. We know that they're laying the 20. It's Deion. We talked a little bit about it last week. The Deion effect. I just think it's tough for them to open up the season with so many fresh new faces on the road against TCU. And if this is a 38-13 type of game, I mean, what do we take away from it?
You really can't take too much away from it. And you made a good point. The fact that this team was 1-11 last year. Let's not forget that what Deion inherited. Now, again, you talk about the biggest transformation in college football history, at least in the modern era, with the way he turned over this entire roster. And I think there's maybe between 10 and 15 players maximum left over from last year's squad. So they know what was last year. And I'm sure they could tell what's entirely different. Now, there's chatter about how this team may be undersized as well in the offensive and defensive line departments. But, you never know the quality of a team like this until you see them on the field for, you have to see it for more than one game. And I mentioned to you last week, I forget exactly what I predicted for their record, but, the best case scenario, you see what this team is probably after 4 weeks or after 4 games, a third of the way of the season. You're like, okay, whether they're 1-3, 3-1, 2-2, 0-4, they're not going to be 4-0. I can't see them going 4-0. I can't see them winning this game. Actually, I think they can make it interesting, and that would be typical Deion team. Make this game very interesting and be the talk of the town. But I think after a third of the season, I could see them covering.
That's interesting in the betting landscape. Interesting is 30-21. 30
right. I
23
and the line's what, 21 and a half, 20.5 right now. I could see your scenario where it's 38-13 and maybe TCU gets like a late cheap touchdown or something like that to cover for so the Horned Frogs cover. But I could see this game being like a 31-14 game in favor of TCU. Deion and the Colorado Buffaloes cover there, but it's going to be hard to evaluate this football team until you see them in 3 or 4 games. And then you could say, all right, well, how are they going to do with the gauntlet of their Pac-12 schedule? How are they going to do against, the lower rung teams of the Pac-12 this year? Can they win more than 1, maybe 2 conference games this year? So I wouldn't put too much stock into this game on Saturday, but I will say if you're Deion in Colorado, you can't go out there and lose 45-3. You can't go out there and get your doors blown off. That I will say, you need to show some kind of competitive fire because of all the talk, all the transformation.
Sure.
You definitely have a higher quality roster this year if you're Colorado. Can these pieces mesh? And I know there's already been, that we wrote it to it on 3. That quote from Deion earlier this week, he doesn't care about culture. He just cares about wins. And he said, the best teams I've ever been on, sometimes the quarterback and wide receiver didn't like each other.
Sure.
But we won games anyway. Sure. So what does that actually mean in the grand scheme of things? I guess it depends upon your definition of culture, I would say. But it's a grand experiment. We've been talking about it since the winter. It's a grand experiment, and I can't wait to see it unfold.
Flip side of that coin, though, if you're TCU, you can't win this game 24-17, first and foremost, right?
I would also agree with that, yeah, because if you're TCU, you're a top 20 team already. You're getting respect in 2023 after a lot of your roster is now different from last year's national championship or national finals team. Again, wrong term, runner-ups. You're the number 2 team in the country last year when it was all said and done. So you don't have that same exact squad back. So is Sonny Dykes going to be able to push all the right buttons again? Probably. He's a good coach. This is a good program. Can they maintain their top 20 stats? Maybe sneak into that top 15, top 10 range later in the year? Maybe. But like you said, I don't think if you're TCU at home, and I know all the Deion hype train's coming in, Coach Prime's coming in, but if you're TCU, you're right. I don't think you can win this game by a touchdown. You need to beat him by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I think, listen, the player on the spotlight is going to be Chandler Morris, right? Because this
Right.
year,
Yes.
the expectation is more mature. You're not looking
Yeah.
over your shoulder, right? Because the starter is no longer there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they go out to make a statement, to be honest with you. I think for all the fluff and bravado, we'll spin it where, well, Colorado played hard, but they lost 35-13, and they're building something. That's what we're going to hear. They're building something.
Yeah, I could easily see that storyline unfold. Now, I will say, and again, I'm not picking this. I do think they can cover, and I would probably throw money on that they would cover that 20.5, and lose a 34-17 or, a 38 to, I don't know, 20, I guess, something like that. But if they pull this upset, Rich, no, the entire college football media landscape is not going to care about LSU. They will. LSU, Florida State. They'll care about that on Sunday, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second.
Right.
All the talk is going to be about
Of course.
Deion Sanders. One win, it's going to change the entire trajectory and narrative of what he's done if they pull off this upset on the road. All the talk.
It's Deion Sanders. If it's Joe Schmo with a 1-11 Buffalo team, no one